Okay, this is a video about framing overhangs on a gable end, and I'm doing post frame construction, so it's a little bit different. There's basically two methods as I understand it, and one is ladder framing and the other is outrigger framing. Because of the nature of post frame and the way that the roof is put together, at least in my circumstance, I'm actually going to do both. So I think hopefully it'll be beefy and strong and should last a long time. But also, I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm doing, so this video is not to show you the best way, but it's just to show you what I did. Here's a top-down shot of the lower roof here, and this one's already done. So this is a simple shed roof or monoslope roof style. So we've got rafters running 16-inch on center all the way across. These are our purlins 2x4s on flat. These are every 2 foot on center. So this is the last rafter that's actually connected in to the post down there and up here. And then this rafter is the overhang rafter. So this one's kind of floating out here, supported by this blocking, which we're gonna do. And then these purlins actually kind of serve as outriggers, supporting it all the way back. These are tied down all the way back, quite a few rafters. I'm also going to add 2x6 outriggers, function as purlins, that sits next to these and are tied in with some 3-inch GRK structural screws to really tie these together. These are 3.5 or 3.25 inch ring shanks, so not bad. These are pretty difficult to get out if you've ever tried, but those screws tied back in 4 rafters will also help provide some stability. So what I'm doing here is an 18-inch overhang here. I've got an 18-inch overhang on the other side, which will give me an extra 36 inches of roof, which matches out perfectly for the roof panels that you get. These metal panels that we're using, tough rib style, come in 3-foot coverage lengths. They're actually a little bit longer than 36 inches, but by doing 18-inch on either side, that's one extra panel. It means less cuts that I have to do. So first things first, let's work on this blocking. Got all my blocks pre-cut. These are 16.5 inches long. So that when I put another 2x4 on the outside here, that'll give me 18 inches. I'm gonna put these at 2 foot on center along this last rafter here. Spacing won't be totally perfect with where my fascia sits. It'll actually be less than 2 feet on center. So I'm starting basically where the outside header is, right above that, and coming up and then marking every 2 feet as I come up the outside of this. And then what I've done is use a speed square and draw a straight line down on the inside of this thing, mark and pre-drill and pre-place these screws all the way up, especially when I'm working by myself. This makes it a lot easier to just hold that blocking in place and then secure it with those screws. All right, got my blocks in place. I've got 7 here. These rafters are about 16-inch or 16 feet long. I'll have fascia board up at the top there and a fascia down there that will effectively act the same. So time to put this last rafter up. And for a 16-foot board, it's not too bad. I'll take that. Straight enough. So these rafter tails have already been cut. This is a 412 roof. Cut all those at 412, set them all based off a string line. The other side are just hanging out there and have yet to be cut. It's easier, in my experience, to try to cut these things after they're already up and hanging instead of cutting them beforehand and trying to set them both sides to a string line. It's pretty difficult. So You can see I've already got the subfascia up there. And so then down here, here's this new rafter we just hung off the ladder blocking, or the ladder framing right there. And so I'm using this level as a straight edge lined up with all of these rafters so that I can mark and then cut this one so it matches all these guys, and then we'll put up that last subfascia piece. So I'm going to take my stair gauge and use it to match the existing rafter cut to line it up totally flush. And if I'm good, I'm exactly at 412, which is what I intended to cut these at. So we're going to use that as a fence for the saw when we cut that guy. So I use that level as a straight edge to line up with all these guys. Got a mark right on the top. And then with this stair gauge at 412, I can mark the cut for this guy. So hanging up this last piece of fascia here, I'm going to attach it so that it's flush with that last piece, and then level it based off that. So again, using some cam straps to kind of hold it in place. There's a third and fourth hand, got the 12-foot Stabilo level out, and we're looking pretty good. So snug it up, tighten it up, and make sure this thing doesn't move. Leveling this doesn't really ensure that the top edge of the roof is level, because this actually sits a little bit below the rafters. It just ensures that the bottom of my subfascia is level all the way across. So along the way, as I go down, I'm going to get out the torpedo level and check to see how this fascia board is doing. Although these were cut, you know, at a 412 slope, I put the level on them when we got them up here, and they were pretty plumb. There can be a little bit of variation in the cut or in the way that, you know, this board sits against that one. So I just want to make sure as I go down, and I can kind of adjust based off screw tension. All right, so got this subfascia tacked up with some decking screws. I'm not hitting every single one, just hitting one at the end, a couple in the middle, one at the end down here. Screws are expensive, so come back through with the nailer and finish these off. I'm trying to minimize the amount of screws. So I left this a little bit long. I'm going to cut it in place. So I'm going to take the circular saw and set this just past 1.5 inches depth and knock that guy off. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for the ladder framing. Next I moved on to the outrigger framing. These are probably overkill, but we do get 2 to 3 feet of snow load during the winter, so I wanted these overhangs to not sag over time and be as strong as possible. So I added a 2x6, a little bit bigger piece of wood that essentially sisters up to the existing 2x4 purlin. And then came back about 4 rafters to tie it in. And I used those 3-inch GRKs to tie these together to make it extra beefy and resist any sag in the overhang. You'll see that I do pre-drill, which you don't technically have to for GRKs, but because some of these are going in close to the end of that piece of wood, I don't want any possible splitting, which would obviously weaken that wood quite a bit. So this is what this outrigger looks like. There's the end, the gable end rafter, and it comes in and connects to 1, 2, 3, 4. And the furthest 2 back is where I put 2 3-inch GRKs, and then the same over there. And then for this middle one, I'll just come back in here and put some nails in. But really the furthest back you can get will be the most lever arm to support this thing.